Wakefield Park for race 2, round 2 of the 2008 Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. And Will Davison, we invert the top 10, so that puts Sam Walter and Jay Vernick on the front row of the grid.
Always spices the racing up, this reverse grid racing. It makes the guys that are looking good for the outright win just to make sure they get the points, be nice and consistent, and we know it always creates that element of some danger.
Michael Trimble from 13th had a clutch problem off the grid in the first race. Clayton Pine back in the series for the first time since Adelaide last year, and Tony Bates making his debut in the Fujitsu series in a very famous car. It's the ex-Greg Murphy 2-minute-6 Bathurst car from 2003. There's Steve Owen, the race 1 winner, the championship leader, starting from position 10. He has to be very, very patient, waiting for the green flag at the rear. There it is, race 2 for the Fujitsu V8 Supercars. Sam Walter, the Tasmanian, on the left of screen. Jay Vernick goes nowhere. The GIO Commodore missed the start by a long way, and it's Walter who leads. Carl Reindler in second spot. Tim Slade up into position 3. Look at the dust and dirt. One car around. Joel Spicella. Denya's off through the grass. Aaron McGill as well. And that dust is really creating havoc this weekend.
It is. I can't tell you what it'd be like for those guys in the mid-packer at the back of the field. From our view, we can see a lot. And from in the back of a V8 supercar, you cannot see a thing when you drive through clouds like that.
Walter leading the way. Carl Reindler in second spot, just his second ever start in the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. Tim Slade having a great run in the Slade Speed Commodore in third, and since the last round in Adelaide they've had to repair that car, so he hasn't done any testing, but it's now living at the Independent Race Cars Workshop up the inside, covering turn 10 from David Reynolds, who's really starting to come to grips with these cars.
This championship is going from strength to strength, and we have some of the best cars in the country out there at the moment. Some really strong young drivers trying to break into the main game V8 supercars, and the level of driving out here now is very high, and it's fantastic to watch.
Steve Owen up the inside, gives Jack Perkins a touch. At turn 2, there's someone else off it, Sam Walters. So in just 2 laps, the world has gone crazy, and Carl Reindler now heads on through. There's cars going everywhere in the background. There's dust and debris and dirt. It's impossible to drive through there and know what is exactly that you're going to find.
It is one small incident is potentially leading into a big one here. And here we've got Steve Owen and Jack Perkins getting together. Again, 50-50 call. I'd hate to be the IPO at the moment. He was up to the B pillar, but it's just a matter of each of these guys trying to give each other a bit of room.
Oh, look at all the dirt and debris. Mark McNally very nearly lost it, but then Jack Perkins contact with Steve Owen, and good luck finding the track out of that.
That was crazy for Jack. You could see he had his eyes on the cars in front of him because there was carnage ahead of him. And while he was distracted on that, Steve Owens tried to capitalise and get in amongst him and turn him around.
Now, Carl Reindler was a bit slow through turn 9. There was some debris on the circuit, so they have pounced. Tim Slade is through. Reynolds is through. Steve Owen is up to third already from 10th on the grid, and Dean Canto is going with him, but it's very much a one-line racetrack through turn 1.
Not only does the dust affect your vision in an incident, you've got to remember the dust that's getting knocked onto the racing line. And one wheel length offline, and you're going to be in some serious trouble. And these guys, as you can see, Reynolds has just run wide there, and Steve Owens got up to second. He's on fire at the moment.
In 3.5 laps, he's gone from 10th to 2nd and continues to charge. Now, his team, they test here at Wakefield Park. Although he's never raced a V8 supercar here before, he has done a little bit of a test session here before this weekend, so he is really on the pace. Reindler now under pressure from Mark McNally, who's got Jonathan Webb, Jay Vernick. They're all lined up ready to pounce.
They are out of turn 9 into the most popular passing spot on the track, and we saw Trimble with the rear brakes completely locked up there, trying to get under Jay Vernick. He's got the power down nice onto the front straight. He's going to be looking to get up the inside into turn 1. 5th gear on the limiter into turn 1, the quickest corner on the circuit. And Vernick's held him off. You can see him just in the marbles there, which is the hardest thing about this place at the moment, is just keeping your focus and keeping on line, because once you get a wheel off, you're in trouble.
David Cedars in the Gulf Western Falcon next in the queue there. Was slow to get away off the grid in race 1. They've been really focusing on fixing out the brake issues that they had in round 1 in Adelaide. In car now with Jack Perkins on the fight back. Oh, he's not fighting back there. He's got a little bit greedy on the run up the hill at turn 5. And again, finding the track is half a fight in itself.
It's all happening again here, Jack. There's 650 horsepower, small tyres, slippery track. Just got a bit hungry on the throttle, got a little bit out in the marbles, and we could see he was just a passenger.
Mark McNally, the Western Australian, up the inside of his fellow West Aussie, Carl Reinler. This is an ex-Holden Racing Team Mark Stave chassis that's being run this year by Brad Jones Racing alongside the cars of Andrew Jones and Cam McConville, and he's got some great engineering help from Matthew Boniface, who's very experienced with these cars and indeed with open wheelers, but he's got them absolutely stacked up here. He's fresh from a pretty positive test at Winton Motor Raceway, managed to do about 100 laps around Victorian Circuit. He's just starting to really come to grips with these cars and prove himself to be a top 10 runner.
Absolutely, and they're very difficult cars to drive, very difficult to set up correctly, and that's why we're seeing more and more level 1 teams get involved in the championship at the moment. We've got Carl Reinler with a DJR engine in there, so he won't be sure to grunt, and then Jonathan Webb in a Stone Brothers car.
And here's your DJR Enduro driver, Steve Owen, up the inside of Tim Slade down at turn 10, and the race pace that he has had this weekend, Tim Slade's going to have to work really hard to hang on.
It's a great benchmark for Tim Slade. You know, he's preparing his own car, and he's doing it tough. And to be up against the likes of Steve Owen, he's a high-class driver. He's been in the main game for years. He's on top of his game. He's very experienced, and Tim's just got to try and hook on the back of Steve and learn what he can. And it's great for this championship to have the likes of these guys. We can see another mistake there. Carl Reinler's just got off the line.
Jay Verdnick nearly got involved. Jonathan Webb tries to slip on through up the inside, but talking to Carl over the course of the weekend, the H-pattern gearbox was something that he's really had to get used to, having come from open wheeler cars, the A1 Grand Prix, the Formula 3 car, but he's being hustled and muscled here. Jay Verdnick, the GIO Commodore, goes on by.
The H-pattern is something very unique in these cars. Once you get the hang of it, it's really good to use. It's something very different to anything else around the world, and I certainly loved using it. And for these guys, though...
Oh, Jay Verdnick made a mistake at turn 10. So Webb goes on by. Now Michael Trimble, who is teammates to Jack Perkins at the Independent Race Cars team, he's up the inside, and Reindler is out on the dirt, and there is no grip there at all.
Oh, two guys trying to run side by side, that was never going to happen.
So Carl Reindler off through the grass. Race 2 continues after the break. Back at Wakefield Park, it's race 2, round 2 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series, and Tim Slade holding second spot, but not for long. Dean Canto, the two-time series champ, up the inside at turn 10, and he's really eager, Will Davison, to get some points back after a disastrous first round in Adelaide.
Absolutely, and it's great to see Steve Owen and Dean Canto, two guys that are main game material, and for whatever reason they're not in the championship at the moment. They are on a mission to prove that they belong there, and it's great to watch them competing with some of these young fellas that are just still learning these cars and trying everything to keep up with them.
Speaking of men on missions, Grant Denyer started last, position 29 after that engine problem in the first race, and he has worked his way through about half of the field at the moment. This was a deal that was put together at 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, so they had a real rush to get this car ready for Grant to be here for round 2. More dust and debris. Jack Perkins going on by Damien Assailant. A replay here down at turn 2. That's contact between James Bergmuller and Aaron McGill, who has had all sorts of engine problems this weekend. Bergmuller in the third of the Greg Murphy Racing Commodores. And look at Dean Canto, though, using all of the track here, and it looks like they've managed to tune this car up, that it's got some pace here.
Absolutely, they're on top of it at the moment. He's really closing the gap to Steve Owen, and you can clearly see these two guys on top of their game at the moment. I can't tell you how difficult it is to drive one of these cars for 17 laps without making one single mistake, and that's where the guys that have been full-time in the main game have a bit of an advantage at the moment. They're pumping lap after lap without a mistake, and this is going to be interesting. Dean's certainly got the eyes on, waiting for the lights to come on in a second to let Steve know he's there.
5 to go in race 2, and the pressure's on. Canto, a mistake at turn 2.
Put the moz on him, I think.
He's gone in the sand now. Can he escape? Well, good luck finding it. Oh,
he's beached.
That looks buried. Yep, that's going nowhere. The rear tyres are spinning. There's nothing but sand. Let's have a look at it. The rear steps out.
Just a case of pushing 110%, trying to get through Steve. He saw a win in his sights. Bit strange. He's come through one. The car's pretty heavily loaded there, and it's a fifth gear down to third gear, and he snagged the rear wheels. Got a tiny bit offline, like I've said. And you're a passenger. Once you get in the marbles here, there's no going back.
And that really hurts in terms of the championship. He was just trying to bank some good points this weekend, and it's all ended in the sand. He's managed to get the car out as we're under safety car conditions, but as you can see there, would you like sand on your racetrack?
If there wasn't any sand on the track before, there certainly is now. That's a shame for Dean. He had unbelievable speed in that car. Restart
time, though. The question is, can anyone match Steve Owen? He'll lead us away. It's going to be a sprint to the checkered flag in race 2. Tim Slade in second spot. David Reynolds back there in position 3. Mark McNally runs in 4th. Steve Owen, the leader, makes a little bit of a mistake on the run through turn 2. Bergmuller is off again and into the tyre war, but Tim Slade has pounced. He takes the lead. This is awesome for Tim. As I said, running his own car out of Marty Brandt's workshop, and a young guy, very hungry to achieve a career in motorsport, and he's just passed Steve Owen for the lead with 1 lap to go, and he could be looking good for a victory here. It's his second year in the Fujitsu series. Drove last year for the Dexion team and the Matthew White team. Here's the replay, and it looked like Steve Owen just got on the dirty part of the circuit there as James Bergmuller went a little bit further off the road. There are so many mistakes going on here at the moment. It looks very difficult out there. Bit of an unexpected mistake by Steve. I'd say just on the restart, cold tyres, and it's just overshot at turn 2 there, and Sladey's capitalised and gone into the lead. On board with Jack Perkins trying to work his way back past Jeff Emery in the Tag Motorsport Commodore, a new livery for that 2-car team this weekend. Perkins second in the championship coming into this weekend, and Damien Assailant following him through, Jay Burnick as well, but this is a great test here for Tim Slade to deal with the pressure of leading. It is, and it's a big thing, I can assure you. Someone like him getting to the lead of this race, he's just got to put the head down, talk to himself, make sure he does not make a mistake. This is a crucial time for him to try and win this race and not make an error with Steve Owen behind him, which is no mean feat, I can assure you. He's a hard racer, and he's had a go. He's giving him a love tap. There's a couple in that, but Slade hangs on, so really the last turn at turn 10 is the critical one. Owen trying to get the switch back to power down on the exit for this last run, but he should be mindful of the championship. Slade covers the line. He'll just have to now get the exit right in the Slade Speed Commodore, and he is going to break through for his first win in the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. Tim Slade takes race 2 at Wakefield Park. Steve Owen home in second spot. That will give him pole position for race 3. There's Grant Denyer. He worked his way through. So many cars, had such a busy race, but hats off to Tim Slade. He takes the win in race 2, clear of Steve Owen. David Reynolds, his best result in V8 Supercar racing. Dale Wood, back of the field, worked his way through in position 10. Grant Denyer went from the very back, from 29th through to 11th, but it's Tim Slade who's a happy man.
Steve Owen actually had a little bit of pace on me, so I was quite happy to sit there in second and finish the race in second, start in a good position for the third race. And then coming around on the restart, noticed that Canto actually spread a lot of stones all over the track, and I think Steve ran a little bit wide, and I was able to hold a little bit narrower line and had better drive off turn 2 and into the lead.
Perhaps one of the most unique and challenging elements to driving a V8 supercar over the years has been the Hollinger H-pattern gearbox. Although the Championship Series has a sequential option, the Fujitsu Series drivers must stick with the H-pattern gearbox, adding another element to the learning curve for the new drivers in 2008.
Once you get used to not backing off the throttle for a gear change and changing with the shift cut, it's really, it's quite a simple box to use. It's just something that I'm not used to, though, a shift cut, but it's definitely a much quicker setup once you get used to the shift cut.
For But coming from the sequential and paddle gear shifts in open wheelers is an even bigger step. In his debut year in V8 Supercars, former F3 champion Carl Reidler has already found out how physical things can be.
It's actually quite a physical gearbox, the H pattern. I had a lot of problems early on with my shoulder and just the ergonomics of the car, just getting comfortable with it all. Clipsal, I had to see a physio twice actually because of the gearbox, but now we've modified the seat a little bit and the actual gear stick, and yeah, getting the hang of it.
And spare a thought for those drivers with endurance duties in the Championship Series later in the year. In the case of Jonathan Webb, he'll have to drive both types of gearboxes on the one weekend at Bathurst, with mental focus critical.
I think the biggest problem is, the cars are very similar, particularly the fact that I've been driving the two SBR cars. That sitting inside them, they're exactly the same look at, the same steering wheel, the same everything. You've just got to keep in the back of your head all the time to remember to pull back and push forward rather than try and get it through the H pattern.